What if your passions are not very businesslike? What if they're things like kittens or comic books? These don't seem very businesslike, do they? But even in these areas are an infinite number of unsatisfied customer needs. Kittens lose a lot of their cuddliness when they grow up to be cats, don't they? What if there were a diet or a genetic therapy that would keep a kitten its entire life? There'd be a lot of demand for that. Comic books, the hugely profitable, successful trade show Comic-Con in San Diego, now expanded worldwide. Doesn't matter what your passions are, there will be unsatisfied customer needs in those areas. Hello, everybody. As I mentioned earlier, I am thrilled to be here with you. I was part of a workshop like this 30-odd years ago, and it hugely impacted my life in a good way, and I hope and trust this one will for you as well. How many people here either have started, aspire to start, or someone close to them has started their own company? Raise your hand. Okay, many of us, most of us. I think you'll find then this session, these two sessions that we'll have together today and tomorrow, timely and relevant. Here's our agenda. I'll say more about the book in a moment, but basically I'll be covering some of the key chapters in the book today and tomorrow. But first, to start us out, I'd like to, take you back. That's today. How many people here have been to Silicon Valley in Northern California? Okay, many of us. It's where I've had the privilege of living and working for these last 40 years. Silicon Valley, you won't find on any map. It's a region that extends about 50 miles from San Jose on the south to San Francisco on the north. The north end, it's home to such familiar names as these. And on the peninsula, which is the earlier part of Silicon Valley, some of these mostly older familiar names like these. Well, amongst these giants, in 2000 and 2001, I was running my second company, Customer Sat. That's short for customer satisfaction measurement. We did online customer satisfaction for large corporations. And this was the hardest year of my life, and the year I feel I first earned my executive stripes, 2000 and 2001. Well, in the first quarter of 2001, I would often wake up in sweat-soaked sheets sticking to my skin at 2 a.m. Our second round of financing, our Series B round, refused to close despite a flurry of meetings with investors as we ran out of cash. Those nights I would get up, shower off the sweat, and try to get back to sleep. When my management team and I finally realized that our Series B round was not going to close, we huddled to figure out what to do. First, we cut our own salaries, and then a few weeks later, those of all of our employees by 10%. I cut my own salary by 50%. Agonizing and debating over every individual, we laid off 40% of our workforce. 40% of the company I had spent the last 3 years of my life building. When I assembled our remaining employees to explain to them that this was the only way we could stay afloat and stay together, I felt my composure collapsing, and I broke down sobbing in front of our employees. They stood there stunned, sympathetic, and embarrassed that their CEO was crying in front of them. To provide just a bit of context, the internet first became commercially available and productized in the 1990s. That was the dot-com boom. Billions of dollars were invested and overinvested in the internet. That huge overinvestment collapsed in 2000 and 2001, the dot-com bust. And all around us, tens of thousands of startups were going out of business. To help us get through, one of our investors lent me $300,000 for the company, but not to the company, rather for me to pass through to customer sat, meaning that I would be personally liable for repaying that loan. Later, I would repay that investor, to whom, despite the arrangement, I was deeply grateful, by mortgaging the townhouse I lived in. That first quarter of 2001, our revenues fell about 20%. That's a lot for a recurring revenue software as a service model company. To save on rent, we consolidated in the less attractive second floor of our building and rented out the more attractive ground floor to another company. We factored receivables. That means we sold our future receivables for cash today at a significant discount, an expensive maneuver you don't want to do frequently. The company that we rented out the ground floor to quit paying us rent after about 60 days, came in late one weekend night, disappeared without a trace. The nightmare would not end. Finally, I reduced my salary to minimum wage, the legal limit. Finally, we could see profitability ahead in the third quarter of 2000. And then, as you know, on September 11th, terrorists attacked the World Trade Center. The entire Northeast communications grid was down. It took an entire day just to confirm that all of our employees were still alive. Even though we were 3,000 miles away on the west coast of the United States from the terrorist attacks, even there, every company that I know of had clients or customers who lost family members or employees in the terrorist attack. If the dot-com bust of 2000 and 2001 did not kill a company, almost certainly the terrorist attacks of September 11th did. Well, we did not make a profit in that third quarter of 2001. We did break even in the fourth quarter. The going kept tough for the next 2 to 3 years. We didn't hire a single new employee for 18 months, but we made it through. And the company was acquired in the first quarter of 2000. Often I've wondered, why did customer sat survive when so many other companies, and I think it's fair to say most other companies of our size and cohort, failed? And it was that question that led me to write Unleash Your Inner Company. The book has a lot in it that I think you'll find is fresh. For example, the right business, the ideal business for you to start is absolutely unique to you. No one else has your unique combination of skills, knowledge, relationships, passions. And so the ideal company for you to start is specific to you and has to be discovered. 2. There we go. No? Okay. Oh, there we go. You have many more advantages to start a company and make it a success than you realize. And in this session today, I'm going to show you a way to inventory and catalog all of the resources you have to start a business and make it a success. 3, positive feedback loops are key to success in business and life. What do I mean by that? I mean people and things that reinforce each other. And so a key to success is recognizing, nurturing, and riding these positive feedback loops. And I'll say much more about that today and tomorrow. Next, any opportunity can be evolved and scaled into a large business if you want to. And tomorrow, I'll talk about techniques for scaling your business. And finally, entrepreneurship is, in one sense, a uniquely ethical career and life path to follow. Because entrepreneurs find new solutions to unsatisfied customer needs, and that makes the world a better place. And I'll say more about that as well tomorrow. So why did customer sat survive when so many other companies, and I think it's fair to say most other companies of our size and cohort, fail? I absolutely don't think we were smarter than other management teams. We absolutely did not have more in the way of resources than other management teams did. Customer Sat only raised $2.94 million in its entire life. One of our clients was Webvan that raised $75 million before its IPO, several $100 million more in its IPO, initial public offering, and then famously declared bankruptcy 14 months after its IPO. So we definitely didn't have more in the way of resources. If I had to attribute it to just two factors why we survived and thrived, I would say it was the number one, we cared more deeply about our business than other management teams did, about all aspects of it, about the coolness of our products, about the relationships with our customers, and about each other more than other management teams did. And two, we stuck with it longer than other management teams did. As I mentioned, it was another 7 years before the company was acquired in the first quarter of 2008. Many other companies just gave up and threw in the towel before that. So in short, I would say it was this combination of passion and perseverance that got us through. The same passion and perseverance that you can muster for your startup. We hear a great deal about passion these days. Every business book talks about the importance of passion. For me, that's getting boring. Some business books also talk about the importance of perseverance. That's more interesting. No one is talking about how the two reinforce each other and form a positive feedback loop. Passion is an attitude, perseverance is a behavior. And in many aspects of our lives, our attitudes and behaviors reinforce each other either positively or negatively. As you know, if you just stick with something long enough so you start to like it and stick with it longer and start to love it, that's an example of perseverance creating passion. Conversely, if you are already passionate about an activity, you know how the hours can go by like minutes when you're engaged in that activity. That's an example of passion enabling perseverance. So you can see how the two reinforce each other. And if you can think of any aspect of your life where you've experienced this positive feedback between passion and perseverance, that's probably a really good area to consider starting a business. Could be in any realm of life, in sports, in travel, in fashion, in gaming, electronics, studying, school, you name it. So passion and perseverance. I think of passion and perseverance as broadly analogous to the north-south and east-west axes if you're trying to climb this mountain. If you can only move along one axis, it may be difficult or impossible to find a path that takes you all the way to the top. But if you have the flexibility to move along either axis, you can find a path that will take you all the way to the top. That's broadly analogous to how passion and perseverance positively reinforce each other. Why are passion and perseverance so important in a startup? Well, let me give you 3 reasons. Number 1, they give you staying power to break through obstacles. It's hard to start a new company. I won't pull any punches on how hard it is. I won't suggest it's easy. It's hard, but you can do it. Passion and perseverance, you'll have to take actions like you might well have to take actions like the ones I talked about, laying off people, cutting back salaries, moving to smaller offices, factoring receivables. Passion and perseverance keep you going through all of that. Second, and this one may surprise you, you have a time to market advantage in the areas that you're passionate about. What do I mean by that? I mean you discover unsatisfied customer needs sooner than others do in the areas that you're passionate about, and so can start addressing those needs before others do and be one of the first entries into the market. Why is that? Because you're trying all the different features of products and services in the market since you're passionate about it. You'll be pushing up against the limitations of those products and features. Some of those limitations will be unsatisfied customer needs. You discover them before others do. And finally, there's a multiplicative effect because your passion and perseverance are contagious to the other members of your team. What if your passions are not very businesslike? What if they're things like long hot bath or kittens or comic books? These don't seem very businesslike, do they? But even in these areas are an infinite number of unsatisfied customer needs. People like to listen to music and watch videos when they're in the tub, don't they? How about a floating or waterproof case for my iPhone or my iPad so I can do those things in the tub? Kittens lose a lot of their cuddliness when they grow up to be cats, don't they? What if there were a diet or a genetic therapy that would keep a kitten its entire life? There'd be a lot of demand for that. Comic books, the hugely profitable, successful trade show Comic-Con in San Diego, California, now expanded worldwide, each year attracts 150,000 people. People dress up as their favorite comic book characters. Hugely profitable. So you can see, it doesn't matter what your passions are, there will be unsatisfied customer needs in those areas. I like to say that in your passion and perseverance areas, there are only two things that you need to start a business and make it a success. A real unsatisfied customer need and an advantage for satisfying those needs. Now, there are tons of unsatisfied customer needs, even just in the areas that you're passionate about. And you have tons of advantages, as we'll see in a moment. But the two are like puzzle pieces, and they have to fit together. So it's a process of search to find the two puzzle pieces, customer need and advantage, that fit together the best for you. So we start out by finding a whole bunch of customer need in your areas of passion and perseverance, ideally. Some of them will be real, some of them will be unsatisfied. We're looking for the intersection of the two, the ones that are needs of lots of people, not just you, and the ones for which there aren't already products and services providing solutions for, or at least readily available or readily known about products. So the ones in the middle are the ones we're interested in. Then we turn to the other puzzle piece, which are first all of your resources. A subset of those resources will be applicable to any particular customer need. And a further subset will or may be an advantage for satisfying that customer need relative to others who might try to satisfy it. Then we bring the two together and look for the two puzzle pieces, unsatisfied customer need and advantage, that fit together the best. That's where you're most likely to be successful. It's an iterative process because customer needs are always changing. Customer needs are always being satisfied by by existing products and services, and new customer needs are always being created. And your resources and advantages are always changing too, because you're learning as you go along. You're gaining satisfied customers. You're doing market research, gaining a better understanding of the landscape of the market. You are bringing on new team members. maybe a co-founder. So it's an iterative process which you eventually narrow down to one best fit. And this is, if you look on the inside back cover of your book, if you would open your book to the inside back cover, you'll see this very chart. And so it's there to remind you, or for handy reference of this 10-step process. And if you look at the table of contents of the book, you'll see that the chapters correspond to those 10 steps as well. Okay. All right. So I'm going to say a few words about the customer need and then a few words about the advantage. First of all, you'll notice that we start with the customer need. Why is? Well, I like to say I started my first company, Decisive Technology, with a really cool technology for which there was no customer need. I won't bore you with what the technology was. I had a patent on it. And it took me 6 to 9 months to let go of that idea and swap it for something for which there was a real customer need, namely the ability to do surveys on the internet. And that led us to launch Decisive Survey, the first shrink-wrapped software to automate surveys on the internet. And that product became a hit. And the company is part of Google today. So it really does work. Start with the real unsatisfied customer need. That way you'll know you really are addressing the customer. Especially if any of you are engineers, as I have been. We engineers are easily enamored with cool technology. Don't fall into that trap. You may not even need the cool technology to address the customer. Or there may be an easier way to do it, or there may be a different technology that you need to apply for. I like to say a customer need has two parts. Number one is the customer, and number two is the need. And I emphasize this point so that we don't forget that the customer need is embodied in a real live human being or group of human beings like a department in a company or an enterprise. And I much prefer customer need personally to market need because market makes it easy to forget that there's a living, breathing human customer behind it. And to be very clear, the need not be something that's really needed for our life or existence, like food, clothing, or shelter. It's simply the difference between a better state and an existing state. And it may be our job as entrepreneurs to educate the customer that there is a better state possible. So the customer and the need. Sometimes I hear it said that it seems like all the customer needs out there have already been satisfied. Who would agree with that statement, that all the customer needs out there have already been satisfied? Well, I'm so happy I don't see anyone raising their hand because I don't agree with that statement at all. Yes, it's true. Every time a new product or service comes to market, if it sells, it is satisfying a need because otherwise it wouldn't sell. We're not compelled to buy products and services for the most part. But every new product or service, in addition to satisfying needs, creates new customer needs in at least three ways. Number one, the product or service itself can be improved. It can be made smarter, cleaner, faster, cheaper, whatever adjective you can meaningfully apply to the customer need. I mean, to the product or service. Two, the companies that are providing those customer services have needs for sales, marketing, distribution, inventory control, analytics, you name it. And three, very often new products and services create needs around, for example, Electric cars create the need for charging stations. A new mobile device creates a need for new carrying cases. So there have never been as many products and services on the market as there are today. And so there have never been as many opportunities to satisfy customer needs as there are today. So I think it's, from that standpoint, it is a great time to be starting a new business or to be thinking about starting. How many unsatisfied customer needs can you find in this room? Anyone? Can anyone see or find an unsatisfied customer need in this room? Yes, sir. Yeah, thank you. Yes. Wouldn't it be nice if I didn't have to do this? Anybody else? Yes, sir. Okay, there you go. Maybe it would let you focus more on the discussion if you didn't have to take note. Thank you. Yes. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Well, I see a pair of crutches over here, and it's conceivable that someone might not be able to raise their hand, in which case, that would be helpful, at least for some subset of everybody who's here. Thank you. Yes, sir. Cocktails. Okay. Wouldn't it be nice for all of us to be enjoying cocktails? Or how about the flavor of cocktails and the sensation it gives us, but without the negative consequences like getting drunk? Yes, sir. Okay. Yeah. What if it could either be readily expanded or this whole thing could be done online, but without the limitations of online? Okay. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
So I was discussing the Jacksonian way of thinking versus Trump thinking, which is the historical standpoints between, how capitalism works. It's I was making some discussions with my friend sitting back here. This idea of capitalism between these historical standpoints. When the other, for example, the need that you just mentioned was, for example, Andrew Jackson was the first person who just used this normal shower that you're using, and this is just a common thing we are using now. Everybody has it, and so that could be one of the needs for maybe your question.
Okay, so conveying the ideas that we're all learning here more broadly throughout the world, and for sure. Yeah. Yes.
I was going to say, it'd be neat with that microphone, you could broadcast to each of our phones so we could individually adjust volume and be able to listen to you without just the two mono speakers up there.
Okay. All right. Or to our glasses, maybe, with built-in microphones or earphones. All right. So you can see there are an infinite number of unsatisfied customer needs out there. We just have to be attentive to them. Here's one way of finding a potentially infinite number of customers' needs that's a little more systematic. Think of any product or service in an area that you're passionate about. Is anyone here a runner? Okay, quite a few of us. Great. Well, of course, one of the products we use are running shoes, right? All right. Think in your mind of any product or service that you use in an area that you're passionate about. But for this example, we'll use running shoes. Now ask yourself, what are limitations of my running shoes? Well, I can think of 3 limitations for my running shoes. Number 1, they start to smell if I've worn them too many times. Number 2, if I want to change the color of the shoelaces to match my outfit, it's a hassle to thread and unthread the shoelaces each time. Number 3, the shoes don't tell me how far I've run or how fast I've run. And they should know that, shouldn't they? Okay, so these are 3 possible customer needs. I have to confirm that they're real. I have to see that if other people have them. And I have to confirm that they're unsatisfied. That is, there aren't products and services currently available either in shops or online that will satisfy those needs. All right, let's say I do all that and I satisfy myself that these are 3 real needs. Then I can ask, okay, what are possible solutions for them? And let's say that for the changing of the shoelaces, I can't find any solution. But so that gives me the opportunity to be creative and try to come up with something. Maybe I can snap on and off the shoelaces easily as one set so that I don't have to thread and rethread them every time. Okay, great. I can pursue that idea. And now with the other 2, the shoes that smell, of course, there are approaches that you can use for that. There are foot wipes and foot sprays and so forth. But even these have limitations, don't they? They have to be done every day or every week. And for the shoes that don't tell me how far or fast I've run, of course, there are limitations. There are solutions. There's my Apple Watch, there are odometers, there are Fitbit, there are other products and services that will do that. But again, here's the thing. Even those solutions have limitations, don't they? So I can repeat the process for those and say, okay, what are possible solutions to those limitations? And keep going. And so you can see that starting with a single product or service, I can create a tree that blossoms into a whole set of potentially unsatisfied customer needs. So that's one technique. And imagine we could do this for every product and service that you're in an area that you're passionate about. You could find a whole bunch of unsatisfied customer needs there. Okay. Now, whatever customer need you come up with, I want you to think big and supersize it. That can become your vision for your new business that you're starting. But there's a right way and a wrong way to think big, and I hear the wrong way all the time, so I want to tell you about that first, then I'll tell you a better way. And that is something like this. We're going to get 10% of $1 billion business, and so we're going to be a $100 million company. Well, that might sound impressive, but that's really boring because it doesn't tell me anything about how you're going to get there. A $100 million market is big enough to be of interest to the largest companies in the world, Fortune 500 companies. How are you going to compete with them? So what's the right way to think big? Step by step, by upsizing the customer set and by the need. And there are lots of ways to do this. You know how when you bowl, the bowling ball first hits the first bowling pin, first hits the first ball. The bowling ball first hits the first pin. That knocks down the next 2 pins. Those pins knock down the next, and so forth. Well, think of your larger market as a set of bowling pins. And which bowling pin would be the easiest one to knock down? And once you've knocked that one down, which pins could you knock down after that? There are lots of ways to do this. There's by geography. This is a series of cities in Poland. I did this presentation in Poland. So this first city you could establish satisfied customers and brand awareness there, then expand to the next city, and the next city, and so forth. Or it could be by industry. This is how customer sat grew, first addressing other technology companies, and then telecom companies, financial services and companies, or if you're selling a solution for large enterprises, you might grow by enterprise function, that is, one particular department like customer service, and then expand from there to sales and marketing and manufacturing and so forth. So all of these could be different ways that you could expand. Here's 2 Degrees Food, fruit and nut bars, who did this analysis. When I spoke to them, they were at step number 3. Whole Foods, the department store chain, had just agreed to take on their fruit and nut bars. And so they, on the vertical axis, we have upsized customer sets. On the horizontal axis, needs in the form of hunger for these different items. And as best they could determine, this is how they were going to grow, or would most likely grow when they were at step number 3 to that entire square, the larger square. Now, of course, we don't have a crystal ball, and we can't see the future perfectly, and this path is very likely to change. Once we're at 3, we may well go to 4, but maybe 5 will be different, and so on. But it's still a useful exercise, because if we think we're going to go to 4 when we're currently at number 3, that will influence many of the investment decisions we make and the people we hire. So it's a useful exercise, even though we don't have a crystal ball. You will have to update it periodically. And this is much more impressive than simply hearing we're going to make become $100 million company in $1 billion market, because this tells me not only how you segment the market overall, but the order in which you're going to address those segments. That shows a lot of thought about your market to a potential investor, and it is a lot more impressive to a potential investor than what we saw before. And so the sum of all those different bowling pins may well add up to the same 100 million that we saw earlier, but it's a much better way to go about it. Here's another technique for thinking big, which is working backwards from your vision. The lady in the lower left is Shireen Yates. She is CEO of Nema Labs. Shireen has celiac disease. Is anyone familiar with celiac disease? Okay, some of us have it in this room, I see. It means that you can't tolerate gluten, is that correct? And so she was in product management. She actually worked for Google. She often had to take clients and customers out to lunch. She would ask the waiter if the food had gluten in it. The waiter would say no when it really did. Maybe it had been contaminated. Maybe he or she didn't know. And she'd often get sick. Her parents had been bakers, so she decided she would create a chain of bakeries, first around the state, then around the nation, then globally, where any food that you bought from the bakery, you could be assured it would not contain gluten. Now, there's just 2 problems here. Number one, it's not very scalable. To create a global network of bakeries would require a great deal of capital. And 2, it doesn't really address the customer need, does it? Because even though there are these bakeries, if she goes into a restaurant, she doesn't know for sure that the food she's eating came from that bakery, or maybe it was contaminated in the kitchen of the restaurant, even if it were purchased from that. So she worked backwards from her real goal and teamed up with a mechanical engineer and a chemical engineer, and together they developed this handheld device, which is available today, which tests for gluten. Device that you can carry in your pocket or your purse. You put a little bit of the food in it. You have to wait a minute or so, but then it gives you a red light or a green light to tell you whether you can eat it. It's a high value product, lots of intellectual property. This is a very scalable business. They can easily and cost effectively ship that small product anywhere in the world. They can even license other manufacturers outside of the US to make that product. And NEMA Labs has since expanded into other products, or just like this one, but that test for other foods like the presence of peanuts. So work backwards from your vision to find a path to it. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about the customer need. Let me turn to the other puzzle piece, which are your resources and advantages. And to motivate that discussion, I'm going to take you back 400 years to what is now Hyderabad, India. 400 years ago, near what is today Hyderabad, there was a successful and wealthy farmer who had a large, productive, and profitable farm. He was approached by an ancient Buddhist priest who happened to mention to him that if someone could find diamond, they could become the wealthiest person in the world. Well, the farmer became enamored with that idea, thought about it day and night, and finally decided to go for it. So he assembled a team of mining experts, acquired the necessary mining equipment, sold his farm, and spent the next 20 years traversing the vast North African, Asian, and European continents in search of diamond. He found none. And at the end of 20 years, he stood on a steep cliff overlooking the Mediterranean. Penniless, afflicted, friendless, hopeless. As he stood there, a huge wave came up, and in his utter desperation, he threw himself into that wave, disappeared beneath its foaming crest, and was never seen again. Meanwhile, the man who bought his farm was tilling the field. A stream ran through those fields. He noticed a funny black rock in the stream. He reached in, picked it up about the size of a baseball. It had what looked like an eye that reflected all the colors of the rainbow. He thought that was funny, so he put it in his pocket, took it back to the farmhouse, set it down on a table, and forgot about it. Sometime later, that same ancient priest who told the first farmer about diamonds stopped by for a visit. And when he saw the stone on the table, he became all excited to recognize a diamond in its original unprocessed. And he asked the farmer if there were any other stones like that on his farm. The farmer didn't know. So the two men rushed out to the field and discovered they were covered with diamonds. Acres and acres of diamonds. Tens of thousands of diamonds. That farm would become Golconda, near what is today Hyderabad, the most productive diamond mine in history, from which the crown jewels of England and Germany and many other countries were. If the first farmer had just realized all the resources he already had, he would have been the wealthiest man. Similarly, each and every one of us in this room has acres of diamonds, resources that we can apply to make our businesses and careers a success. And right now, I'm going to show you a way to inventory and catalog. I use the acronym STARS to remember them. Your skills, the technologies you know about, your assets, your accomplishments, your relationship, your reputation, and your strengths, as in inner strength. It spells the word stars with 2 A's and 2 R's. And regardless of where you are in life, regardless of whether you plan to start your own business or not, a very worthwhile exercise is to take out a big sheet of paper, put 7 columns on it, 1 for each of those words, put the words at the top. If you wish, use a spreadsheet and make it with 7 columns. And under each word, write down as many resources as you have that you can think of. It's a good exercise to do with someone who knows you well, because they will see resources in you that you don't see in yourself. Put them all down, even if they don't seem very relevant to starting a business, because at this early stage in the process, we don't know what business you're going to be starting. Here's an example. Come back to that. Your skills and technologies can include both the skills and technologies you've learned by formal training and because you're passionate about those. Your assets may be physical, financial, or knowledge-based. Your accomplishments are there to build your self-confidence. Success in one realm of life often spills over to another. Your relationships are both personal and professional. Your reputation, how other people know you, and your inner strengths are qualities like passion, perseverance, creativity, ingenuity that you've demonstrated. Put them all down. Again, whether they seem relevant or not. We use this chart, your STARS chart, 4 different ways throughout the 10-step process. Number 1, we use it to assess the fit between you and each of the unsatisfied customer needs you have identified. 2, to see where the gaps are, to see what additional resources you need to develop or acquire to address those needs. 3, to build your self-confidence. It's hard to start your own business, and this reminds you of all the resources you have at your disposal. And 4, to innovate, because innovation is largely a process of combining things that you already know in novel ways. And this chart lays out what you already know, doesn't it? So, each and every one of us here has a homework assignment for tonight, and that is to draw your STARS chart. All right? And tomorrow I will call on a few of you to present your STARS chart to the class, and there will be a prize for the person who has the most items on their STARS chart. All right? So again, create your STARS chart, and there's a whole chapter with more detail in the book. I think it's chapter 6. It's called "The Future is in Your Stars." Is that right, chapter 6? Someone could confirm? Yes, thank you. Okay, great. All right. How about your failures? Do they belong on your STARS chart? And I would say yes, if you learned from them. Let's say that circle in the upper left, the blue circle, represents what you know you can do with a given set of resources. Now you try something new. I guess I can even point to it with this right there. You try something new and you're successful. Great. You've expanded what you know you can do with a given set of resources. Then you try again, and further expand, and you're successful again. Great. You further expand it. And now you try again, oops, but this time you fail. Okay, you've learned that whatever you tried to accomplish with those resources could not be satisfying. So you have still further expanded what you know you can do or cannot be done with a given set of resources. Now you shift down in this direction and you fail again. All right, you've learned that cannot be accomplished. And this time you apply more in the way of resources, you set your goals more modestly, and you're successful. Great. Well, notice that the blue area here is about 3 times as large as it was here. The person who tries lots of things has it all over the person who never tried. Because the person who never tries anything new, their knowledge base never expands beyond that initial circle, does it? Yours has expanded threefold. And that has 2 advantages. One, it makes you a better judge of what you can do. And so you can take risks in a more informed fashion if you've tried lots of things. And 2, it makes you a better judge of what can be achieved in general with a given set of resources. And that makes you a better manager and investor because you can better judge what is reasonable or what would be ambitious for someone to accomplish. So notice that you gain this whether you succeed or fail. And so it may well be that there is an optimal mix of successes and failures for each of us. Because think of it, if you've tried a whole bunch of things in succession, they've all been successful, maybe you should be stretching a little bit further and taking a bit more risk each time, or at least some of the time. And similarly, if you've tried a whole bunch of things in succession, they've all failed, maybe you should set your sights more modestly and plan to apply more in the way of resources and for each time. And so you can see how there may well be an optimal mix of successes and failures for each of us. Okay, so again, the exercise, create your own stars chart. Okay, how much time do I have? 2:55. I have 20 minutes, is that right? Okay, let me try to address one more topic then before we break, and that is building your self-confidence. As I've said, it's hard to start your own business. And you'll come up against all kinds of things that are out of your control. You'll lose valued customers. There'll be an economic downturn. A precious team member will leave and go to a competitor. So how do you keep yourself going? As was mentioned, I had the privilege of serving as president of the MIT Alumni Association, and I got a chance to meet with and interact and learn from many of our faculty at MIT, including Professor Anne Graybill in brain and cognitive science. Professor Graybill says that the brain is like an iceberg. We're only consciously aware of about 20% of the messages that come into our brain. The other 80% are we're unconsciously aware of. Messages that we overhear or things we see out of the corner of our eye. Well, some of these unconscious messages are harmful. In particular, negative things that we repeat about ourselves again and again. The unconscious mind accepts, and it can become a reality, a self-fulfilling prophecy. So the first principle in this chapter, chapter 7, which is growing your mind from the inside out, is the name of the chapter, is never say anything negative about yourself. To be very clear, I'm not worried about what other people might think about you. I'm worried about what your most important audience thinks about you, and that is your unconscious mind. Whenever a negative thought like any of these might creep into your mind, I'm no good at sports, I'm no good at math, I'm no good at directions, whatever it might be. Think of a specific time, no matter how small, when you did the opposite. If it was directions, you got us there without looking at the map. If it was the math, you were able to do it in your head. If it was a social situation, you put everyone at ease. Write down every detail of that incident, no matter how small. If you have a specific artifact that represents it, a picture, a trophy, whatever, put that in a prominent place so you can see it. Think about it as you're falling asleep, and let that reality squeeze the negative thoughts out of your head. And let that become your new reality. As Professor Graybiel says, the only way to break a bad habit is to start a new habit. And this is part of that starting a new habit. Here's an example of what I'm talking about. Can everyone see the elephants in this picture, these pictures? Yes? Okay, great. All right. So for the next 5 seconds, nobody think of elephant. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Time's up. Okay. Who did not think of elephant? Raise your hand. Okay, great. Several of us did not think of elephant. Sir, how did you not think of elephant? Okay, great. Something else you like doing? Yes, back there. You focused on the wall instead. Football. Oh, football. Excuse me. Okay, great. Oh, the soccer ball, the football in the picture. Yes. Anybody else? How they did not think of elephants? Yes, sir. Okay, great. Yeah, got it. Okay, great. All right, you get the idea. Let's try it again, shall we? This time, for the next 5 seconds, no one think of elephant. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Time's up. Who didn't think of elephant this time? Okay, well, a few more of us. You get the idea. All right, great. When I was in my mid-30s, I accepted the fact that I'm gay. Most people would not view that as an asset. I disagree. For me, it has been an asset in 5 different ways. Number 1, when you're growing up gay, you know unambiguous, with absolute certainty, that at least some of the world's routine assumptions are wrong. People routinely assume that guys are attracted to gals and vice versa, don't they? But you know it's not universally correct. And so growing up gay has helped me not necessarily accept the status quo, think outside the box, and that's made me a better entrepreneur and investor. 2, it wasn't socially acceptable to be openly gay when I was growing up. And so at least some of the energy I might have put into dating, I put into studying, sports, career. Today, 30 plus years later, I'm hugely enjoying the benefit of that early investment. 3, I'm not a minority in any sense that I can think of other than being gay. And so it has sensitized me to some of the challenges minorities face. 4, when people see that I'm not trying to hide my sexual orientation, they can see I'm being honest with them, and that helps build trust between them. 5, I think it further conveys that I have strength in reserve if I can be open about the fact that I'm gay. Similarly, if there is any aspect of yourself that you genuinely cannot change, find a way to view it as an asset. Set the bar very high. Don't use this as an excuse to accept some aspect of yourself that you can change and would like to change. But if you genuinely cannot change, if you can find a way to view it as an asset, it'll be hugely empowering for you as it was for me. A few years ago, I was giving this exact same talk to an auditorium of undergraduates in Guatemala at UFM. How many are here from UFM? Great. I'm very fond of you. About halfway back in the auditorium as I spoke, a young man gradually raised his hand, made a fist, and pressed it against his head, his chest, like this. And at first, I thought it was some small gesture of agreement or support for what I was saying. But then, when I looked again, I could see he wasn't making a fist at all. His hand had no fingers on it. And I imagine he was saying, this I cannot change. This is my strength. So again, if there's some aspect, any aspect of yourself you genuinely cannot change, find a way to view it as an asset, and it'll become one of your assets. How many people use PowerPoint in this group? Okay, virtually all of us. Great. Well, here's a PowerPoint tip. Add a kitten, cat, or puppy to the slide, and it'll make it more engaging. But this is not about the cat. Do you see that point on the carpet above the cat? I can't lift up that point very high, can I? Unless I always also lift up all the points around. Well, we're all like the points on that carpet, aren't we? I can't lift myself up very high unless I also lift up the people around. So even if I see just a glimmer of perseverance, of good judgment, creativity in the people around me, letting them know that I see that, builds that quality and attracts good people to us. And that elevates us to a position of leadership on our group. So look for and find good in people, just as we want to look for the good, as I said, in ourselves. When we complain or criticize, endorphins flow to our brain. And for all of 5 seconds, we feel a sense of superiority and well-being. But after the 5 seconds, the endorphins fade away, and the people that we've criticized or think we've complained about are demoralized. So the net outcome of this can only be negative. There are lots of other techniques that work better. Asking questions, articulating consequences, of celebrating whatever is. The longer I'm around, the more I think the ratio between good things and criticism needs to be higher. I used to think it should be like 5 good things to 1 criticism. Maybe now later it was 10, then 50, then 100. I suppose there's still a role for criticism and complaining, but I'm not sure what it is. Okay, I mentioned, let's see, 306, great. I have time for one more topic, and that's how you can become an innovator. How many people have heard the expression that innovators are born, not made? That is, you have to be born an innovator if you're going to be an innovator. You've heard that expression, I suspect, right? I've heard it too, and I don't buy it one bit. Anyone can become an innovator. Each and every one of us in this room can be innovative, just by combining things that we already know in novel ways. This chart gives you a flavor or shows you how. So look for combinations of items on your stars chart that you might satisfy, needs that you might satisfy. So this person has experience with speaking Spanish and work experience in medical services. That suggests maybe a device for doing automatic translation between doctor and patient. Or this person knows their hometown well, maybe, and they know something about medical services, so maybe they could do same-day home delivery of prescription drugs. For innovation, the most important columns on your stars chart generally are the left two, the skills and technology. And in particular, new skills and technologies. If there are two that are growing, they may or may not overlap yet. By that I mean there may or may not be products and services that use both those technologies. But as these circles grow, this intersection will start out small, but it will grow even faster than the big circle. If there's a third technology that you can meaningfully combine into your solution, the intersection of all three will start out even smaller, but it will grow even faster as these big circles grow. So try to stay apprised of as many technologies as you can, because new technologies, even if it's just at a very high level of its functionality or how it's used, even if you don't need to know everything about how it works, because any one of those might be a key differentiator for your product or service. And in fact, it was just such an innovation that drove MIT customer SAT's recovery and growth out of the dot-com bust, because we were familiar with case management, which was a feature of customer relationship management system. Customer service apps often use case management. The customer has a complaint, you open a case, you give it a priority, and so forth. Well, one of our customers suggested this, and when they did, we already were right on top of it because we'd already been thinking along the same lines. What if you combined case management with an online service so that you could use business rules that describe the customer and their response in the survey to decide whether or not to open a case, what severity you give it, and who it's assigned to. So if a platinum customer complains about training, then and they give a satisfaction score of, say, a 6 or lower on a 10-point scale, you could open a case, assign it an urgent level of severity, and assign it to the appropriate person. Well, that was a differentiating feature in our product that just drove our growth probably 5 or 6 years at least until other companies came up with the same innovation. So, one example. Okay, there we go. All right, well, that's all we have time to cover today. I guess we have 3 or 4 minutes, and we can open it up to questions and comments if you like. So here's your chance. Yes, sir. Oh, excuse me. Yes, ma'am. I'm not wearing my glasses.
That's okay. I wanted to say thank you for the book.
Oh, you're welcome. But don't thank me. Thank the organizers who provided them. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Why do you think most entrepreneurs fail, like in the beginning step of their...
It's a really good question. I think the reason is, others may disagree, but I think it's because they don't hew closely enough to an unsatisfied customer need. They, get enamored with the product. Wouldn't it be cool to have this feature or that feature? Their competition has the feature. They want to add it. I mean, often it's important to do that. But if you aren't making any headway with your product or service, you can, and I explain this in the book in the chapter on upsizing or downsizing the customer need. You can downsize it. If you can't, for example, if you can't serve everybody in the state of Illinois, maybe you can just serve the city of Chicago. If you can't serve the entire city of Chicago effectively, maybe you could just do, I don't know, the loop part of Chicago. If you can't do the entire loop, maybe you can just do a city block. If you can't serve the entire city block, maybe you can serve one building in that block. If you can't serve the entire building, maybe you can serve one floor of the block. If you can't serve the entire floor, maybe there's one company on that floor that you can do a good job of serving. Maybe it's even just one individual. Do a good job of serving that individual, get paid for your services, and then when you've mastered that you're delivering real value, even on a small scale, then replicate. So many people try to replicate something that doesn't deliver that much value in the first place. Scale it down to where you are delivering value, and then grow that. Yes, ma'am. Sarah, right? Oh, excuse me. Go ahead.
So I wanted to ask, as an entrepreneur, when starting a business, how important do you think the network is when you start?
How important is what?
Network. Your network.
When you start your business, I mean, at the very beginning.
Well, I think it's pretty important. I mean, of course, network is a broad term and has many facets. It could be a personal or professional network. You need contacts for selling your product, customers. You need them for hiring employees. Maybe you'll use a network for distributing your product or service, so you don't sell it directly to customers, but through channel. And building your network along all of those dimensions can be helpful. MIT has an active alumni association in Northern California where I live. I've been active in that ever since I graduated. And I think it's been an important source of contact for all of you. And if are similar professional associations that you can join wherever you are, it might be a service group like Rotary, or maybe it's an alumni association, whatever it is. I think those tend to be worthwhile. Toastmasters is good thought. Yes, sir.
The biggest thing I thought about going to entrepreneurship as well, but I know it's tough. Like, would you recommend for starters who want to go into entrepreneurship rather than the start? Would you slowly recommend start working at a company, then maybe like later try to promote yourself one step at a time, like become like CFO, like the chief finance officer, then maybe later on be CEO, or like would it be a good idea to have an idea and try to pitch it?
Well, I think there is absolutely merit in gaining work experience with an established company before trying to branch out on your own. I mean, for one thing, if you've never worked for an established company, the customer needs that you'll be addressing are tend to be limited to B2C, business to consumer customer need, because you haven't had any experience in a company. Whereas if you have worked for a company, you can see firsthand B2B, business to business need. So that expands your set of possible customer needs that you could serve. You gain experience managing people, dealing with people in teams. So I think it's all worthwhile. The tough part is deciding when you make the jump. I like to say I had a great advantage starting my first business. I was fired from my previous job. At first, I wasn't even looking to start a business. I was just looking for a new job. And then I had a chance while I was doing that to do some consulting. I learned a lot. I made some money, and I went back to looking for a job again. And I had a chance to do more consulting. Learned a lot, made some money, went back. And then eventually I just forgot about looking for a new job, and I became a consultant. And I evolved my first company, Decisive, which I mentioned, out of that. consulting practice. So don't wait too long. But when you feel like your learning in the big company is tapering off, maybe that's a good time. We're out of time. Thank you all for having me. It's been great.